with tales of smugglers, shipwrecks, alleged pirates' graveyards, Viking raiders and mermaids, I invite you to join me for a nautical exploration of the Isle of Portland.
South of the seaside town of Weymouth and connected to the mainland by a shingle bank known as Chesil Beach lies the Isle of Portland. The island is the most southerly part of Dorset and is around 4 miles in length and 1.7 miles in width. Portland is famous for a type of stone which is quarried here, a limestone known as Portland stone. This stone has been used across the world in architecture including the UN headquarters and St Paul's Cathedral. Portland is part of the stunning Jurassic coast and has a rich maritime history.
So before we get to smugglers, mermaids, Vikings and pirate graveyards, we're walking from where I've parked at the top sort of north end of Portland and walking down through some disused quarries, one of which is called Tout Quarry, and it's actually been turned into a sculpture park. So people have made these really interesting sculptures out of the Portland stone that has been left behind from its quarrying days. Look at this. It's like a graveyard in its own way, isn't it, really? Portland Quarries Nature Park, Tout Quarry Sculpture Park and Nature Reserve. Tout meaning lookout. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Actually, if it's lookout, could it be tout? Don't know. It's a unique disused quarry with rich geological interest, industrial quarrying heritage and special wildlife. Ooh. Portland stone, which is a fine type of limestone, has been quarried here on the Isle of Portland for centuries. You often see it on magnificent classical kind of buildings like churches and cathedrals. And in fact, after the Great Fire of London, around 6 million tonnes of Portland stone was shipped here down to the River Thames to be used to rebuild many of the classical buildings in London. Fish. It's actually kind of eerie. I don't know why. that elephant. It's very good. Okay, I can see the dog, the Roy dog it says. An old Portland tale which used to live at Cave Hole at Portland Bill. People say he has one red eye and one green eye, and known to hunt smugglers and fishermen that passed his cave. If you look closely, you can see the eyes of his victims weaved into his fur. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh. Well, that's pretty cool. Gosh. I feel like we're going to be rewarded with the most spectacular views today. Oh my goodness. Look at this. You could be on holiday somewhere, couldn't you? It's just does not look like Dorset. It's certainly very unique, Portland. So having just left Tout Quarry, I'm now on the southwest coast path. Let's see which way we're heading. Hopefully we're heading towards Portland Bill, which is where the lighthouses are.
My next stop was St George's Church. This Georgian masterpiece was built by Thomas Gilbert, whose grandfather supplied the Portland stone used to build St Paul's Cathedral. Both the church and the atmospheric graveyard are now managed by the church's Conservation Trust.
Now, if you appreciate a good graveyard like I do, oh my goodness. July 2nd, 1942, St George's bomb crater. Damaged headstones gathered into a commemorative circle by volunteers in 2020. Oh look, so it's all different parts of the headstone. Oh wow. Gosh, that's sad, isn't it? Bit of a shame that it's no longer used for regular worship. It's really beautiful inside. When you stand from this side, the south side, that's the south side entrance there, you can really see that Georgian style, can't you? Look at that. Just looks like a fine mansion, that south entrance. Beautiful. And the bell tower, wow. Can you imagine this place at night? Wow. What a stunning graveyard, and the Georgian church as well is beautiful, but we must go on our way down towards Church Ope Cove. So that there is Pennsylvania Castle. Which was built in 1800 by John Penn, who was the son of William Penn, who founded Pennsylvania in the USA. Sadly, private. Okay, so I'm heading down this path, which will hopefully take us to Church Ope Cove, which is where all the smuggling and the pirate graveyard alleged is, and tales of mermaids. Lots going on down here. Okay, we found the church, the ruins of the church of St Andrews. Ooh, down the steps. Oh. So this is known, I was going to say locally, but the locals don't really like this. But it's been known as the Pirates' Graveyard, and you'll find it if you stick it into the internet. Comes up as the Pirates' Graveyard, and the only reason it's called the Pirates' Graveyard, I'm afraid, after doing some digging, is because it's got this memento mori style of graves, which have the skull and crossbones, of which we will find some. Not much left now, sadly. Oh wow. This is stunning. It was built by Benedictine monks of St Swithin in Winchester, who were bestowed the Isle of Portland in 1042 by Edward the Confessor. In 1340, the church was sadly attacked by the French, and again in 1404, and it was severely damaged. However, work began on what was practically a new church altogether. The church was then consecrated in 1475 and dedicated to St Andrew, who is the patron saint of fishing. The church has unfortunately been a victim of a number of landslips, and in 1625 there was a really significant one, and much of the churchyard and the land that it sits on ended up in the sea. And unfortunately there were more to come in 1675, 1734 and again in 1735. 3 more landslips marked the end of St Andrew's Church. I guess it was always destined to sadly end up in the sea. So here is one of the skull and crossbones that everybody is coming to see on this beautiful chest tomb. It's stunning, and the whole legend of this being a pirate's graveyard is fixed around the fact that these skulls and crossbones look like pirate skulls and crossbones, but no, they are memento mori, which is Latin, and it translates roughly to remember you must die, and it's a reminder of our mortality basically. And they were just popular in that period in cemeteries and on gravestones and tombs. Got the trumpets there on that one. "1737" that says. Wow. Yeah, that's got a little skull and crossbone as well, a bit more simplistic. So one of my viewers asked me to come and check out this location. So Katie, if you're watching, this one's for you. Okay, so I'm here at Church Ope Cove and I'm going to tell you about the Vikings. Let's go right back in time. It's 787 and it was reported the Vikings landed here on Church Ope Cove before the famous raid at Lindisfarne, but the sources and the scholars are not 100% sure about that. So it's said that in 787, 3 Viking longships arrived here on the coast of Portland, possibly here at Church Ope Cove, which at the time was a lot sandier and easier to land your ship on. The King's Reeve, who was basically like an admin assistant to Saxon king of the time, he was summoned here to come and meet with the new arrivals. He rode from the King's Town, which was Dorchester, to come and meet with the Viking traders, he hoped, to take them back to Dorchester, as was custom, to meet the king and to pay taxes for landing here. Whether it was a miscommunication or whether the Vikings just took a dislike to the reef, they apparently slaughtered him here on the beach. And it is said that he may well be the first Englishman killed by Vikings here on English soil. Now we have to remember the source for this is the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which was written by noblemen and clergymen a long time after these events happened. And of course they come from a Christian viewpoint, so they could be tainted somewhat. But historians do believe that at some point Vikings did land here in Portland, and there was such a thing as a reeve, and they did do the collecting of taxes. So there's some things that make it plausible. So up there at the top of the cliff with the Union Jack flying outside is Rufus Castle, which was a fort essentially, and it was built to protect the coastline from invasion. It's also known as a bow and arrow castle, and it was built for King William II, who was also known as William Rufus by his father, William the Conqueror. Sadly, Rufus Castle is now on private land, so we can't even go and look at the ruins, unfortunately. The whole of the coast of Portland is notorious for shipwrecks. It's so dangerous, rugged and unpredictable, and I'll show you a few of these shipwrecks that have happened over the years now. So Dorset has a long history of smuggling, and in part that's because of all the coves that line the coast of Dorset, which are ideal for hiding contraband. Many of the Dorset smugglers were just seafaring men who found a new use for their knowledge of the seas and the coastline.
High levels of custom taxes forced smuggling to become a lucrative trade. Various goods were smuggled, which included alcohol, tobacco, tea, coffee, salt, lace and cotton.
And smuggling itself, it happened across the classes. It wasn't just the labourers and fishermen that took part in it. It was, everyone had a hand in it. Men and women, wealthy people, everybody.
Just one successful night of smuggling cargo could bring in over 5 shillings, which became an attractive source of additional income for the poor. In the 18th century, the government tried to clamp down on smuggling, and in 1719, they passed the first Hovering Act, which made it illegal for vessels to moor within 6 miles of the coast.
Court rolls from the early 19th century showed a high number of Portlanders, people from Portland, involved in smuggling who were brought to court. The prosecutions included men and women of all ages and from all walks of life. It's said that brandy was a favourite to be smuggled here at Church Ope Cove, and it was sunk into the sand and then collected when the coast was clear. I'm heading, never eat shredded wheat, west, and I'm going to try and get to Portland Bill because I'd really like to show you that lighthouse. It's pretty spectacular. Now that's a little sheer, isn't it? Wow. Just all of a sudden you're faced with the bottom and not much between you and the path. You can absolutely imagine how this was so perilous to ships. Goodness. So Portland Bill was just coming into sight up there. It's a lot busier around here because it's quite a popular place for tourists to stop. I'm hoping to be able to stop myself and get a nice something to eat. It's that time of year. Okay, so there's Portland Bill. It's striking red and white colour, and it's the most southerly part, not just of Portland, but of Dorset. And sadly, it's not manned anymore. It's got LED lamps these days. I believe that through there, through that fencing, is the Ministry of Defence training facility. I'm not sure what they train in there, but yeah, one of the many reasons you can't fly a drone apparently. I think most of us have these charming kind of visions of mermaids being these sirens sat on rocks singing. Well, here in Portland, that's just not the case. So the first report of a mermaid here at Portland actually comes from Chesil Beach, which is the shingle strip at the north of Portland. This mythology comes from 1457, and it's a very unusual report. It's described in local folklore as being a mer chicken that is part rooster and part mermaid, and the head is the rooster part. Allegedly, it emerges from the water and calls like a cockerel 3 times before submerging back into the sea. And we also have reports from the 1700s of a creature that looked part man, part hog, but with a mermaid's tail that washed up here near Portland. The mermaid was 13 foot long and it was thrown up by the sea. The upper part of it had some resemblance to human form. The lower was like that of a fish. The head was partly like that of a man and partly like that of a hog. Its fins resembled hand. It had 48, how they counted that I don't know, large teeth in each jaw, not unlike those in the jawbone of a man. So I'm on the west side of the island now, having just left Portland Bill. It's a lot calmer today on this side. I wonder how many souls have been lost here. Now I do wonder if we'll meet the roe dog, sometimes also known as the tow dog, here in Portland. It's a big black shuck-like creature with red eyes that stands on the pathway, blocking anybody to not let them pass. Apparently it's never actually hurt anybody. There's no accounts of anyone being attacked by this creature, but apparently it stands quite menacingly, blocking paths. With tales of smugglers, Viking raiders, with tales of smugglers, Viking raiders, with tales of smugglers, Viking raiders, and alleged pirates' graveyard.